But most people are convinced that they have nothing that special to give to their community or have to really develop or build in their life. And so they start to, because of their upbringing or a mixture of that, as well as mistakes, what felt like failures at times in your life, right? You start to convince yourself and create a belief system that creates thoughts, right? That produces the evidence and gives you these actions where you're a quote unquote failure, or you're a nobody, or you're just another average person. So in that, I want to welcome you into this idea of abandonment, okay? The art of letting go. And I want to explore that for the rest of the time. But before we hop in, I need to let you know we got Q here watching, producer Q. Yes, he's checking in. So if you guys have any questions along the live, if you are maybe wondering something else that maybe I maybe mentioned, but I didn't clarify, you'd like, feel free to engage there. Q is going to make sure that if there's something that I missed on a comment in the chat, a question in the chat, okay, then he's going to catch that. But
no comment left behind.
Yeah, no comment will be left behind, guys. So just remember that. And on top of that, again, if you could share this, live. You can send it as a text message and send it to somebody directly right now, and that would allow them to click it and catch this live right now. Also, if you would, let us know where you're watching from. What city are you in? I know, Leo, you're going to say Levelland unless you're somewhere else I don't know right now. But let us know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in. Again, I appreciate you being here and sharing your time with me on this live. So we're going to hop in, okay? We're going to hop in. Okay. All right, so check it out. I see Brittany's on. Awesome. Giovanni finally made it on. Love it. Okay, so I want us to think about this idea of what it looks like. I mean, right now we're here in Amarillo, Texas. We're all experiencing the heat. And so this idea of trees, okay, a beautiful tree, take this image in your mind of, we're seeing so many of those beautiful trees right now, and we're in summertime, right? It's really, really hot. I think the next 3 days, Q, it's like 101. So it's going to be super hot here. But we look to things like trees to shade us, right? To bring us shade, to park our cars under them, to shade our homes and our lawns and our neighborhoods, all the things. And so this idea of a tree, and without you actually thinking of, or seeing a tree and really taking time to think about it, I want you to think about the season of a tree when we get into fall and those trees start shedding and letting go, or what we would call abandoning, right? Completely to let go of those leaves that before the whole season, the summer season, had freshly and regrew those new leaves, established them and strengthened them all summer long, and then gets to the fall time and completely just sheds and lets them go, right? So this idea of a tree shedding its leaves and letting go of the old, right? It does that because it no longer serves it for that season. It's better to actually let go of what won't serve it because it's not going to survive in the winter, right? Strengthen even within its roots, survive the winter, and then regrow with something that is now going to better serve it. And so this idea of a tree being able to let go and shed something that no longer serves it in order to make room for something in the future when it's stronger, when it has something it actually needs. That's the same idea that I want to tap into when we talk about this abandon, okay? So in saying abandon, what are certain things that I'm talking about or maybe we should be looking at letting go of, right? So when we look at this idea to abandon, it's not about just giving up. A lot of times people think to abandon, you want me to just give up on this or let go of this. That sounds easy. That sounds cool. But it's really an art of giving yourself permission, right? And this is the separating factor of why it's not just giving up or quitting something. To let go is to really actually give yourself the ability and permission to surrender and give something up. And at times, and I feel like a lot of our most critical times or essential times of shifting in moments where we just went through something really, really difficult, or we went through something that we just felt like life had drop kicked us in the face. We have to make a decision on what are we going to do with what had happened in that past season. Maybe it was a mistake again, something we position in our minds as a failure, right? Which produces these fears of, hey, what if I do that again? Or what if I look like a fool again by trying that? Or what if I take another risk and I find failure on the other side of that? And so this idea of letting go, it becomes more and more developed into, that's what I'm calling the art of letting go. Because at times, over and over, through different moments of our life, we are going to have to come back to letting go of what no longer serves us for who we are, where we're at in that current moment and position of time. And so I want to talk about going into next. I'm going to take a quick break and check in, but I want to talk about what is it specifically. There's a lot of things, but what specifically can we actually start tapping into letting go? What are the most critical things that we should focus on that if it's no longer serving us should be let go of, should be released, right? So I want to talk about that next, but I want to make sure, yes, I'm not missing anything. Q, how was the chat section looking here?
It looks like Leo is saying letting go of bad habits to become a better person.
Yep. Okay. Yes, he's trying to take over my talk in the chat section. He's going into my next section. Yes. So yes, essentially a lot of that, letting go, and we could actually hop right into that one because really that's so much of it is habits. I would say, your habits are those daily building blocks of something, right? Your habits create who you are and who you're becoming. And it's like what we are doing every day starts to really become who we are and who we are showing up as. And so I think for so many of us, I mean, that's going to be, I shouldn't say so many, every single one of us has to go through what does it feel like to let go of those bad habits, right? Even for myself, even in this current season, there's things that are great as far as habit wise. There's things that are, that's really, not that big of a deal if we were to look at it. And then there's certain things that's like, hey, I should let that go, or I should peel back more from that within my habits. Sometimes that's a mental thing, right? Sometimes that's a physical thing within habits. And sometimes that's just even just the way that I show up, or I really go into how am I deciding to show up, making a habit of, at times I don't feel like, even smiling in public. At times I don't have I needed a nap cue right before this whole lot. I was telling him like, dude, it just hit me. And
That was me too, dude. It took me out.
yeah, I was like, man, but deciding to make it a habit to try, right? That's a part of me letting go of this excuse that just because I don't feel like it, or just because I don't feel like being kind, that I don't have to, right? Like we have to let go of these things at times. And so, Q, before I hop in, what would you say? I mean, in this idea of letting go of, yes, fears, what has been like in a nutshell, one of the hardest things for you to give up in your journey of getting to the next thing?
I think for me it was letting go of like the idea that the idea I had was the best idea or best way to go about it. So like, I guess limiting myself to not know that there's better ways to go about things or whatever.
Absolutely. No, that's really good because, all right, so those of you, this is actually a handout of what I'll take into the schools on this topic, abandon. But I have there's 8 different things that we could focus on when it comes into abandon, right? What are things that we need to abandon? But Q, to your point, one of the specific things that I had put on here was what used to work or did at one time. What used to work or did at one time. This is something that we often have to go back and look and see like, okay, do I need to like abandon my approach sometimes on this, because it used to work by me doing it like this, but now it's not. Do I need to abandon maybe like the mindset I have behind this? Sometimes that's like a relationship with like, it could be coworkers, right? Sometimes that's like with your spouse, or, you know, even your parents. Like, you got to abandon even sometimes maybe like how you could communicate, and how like now you do and it doesn't work. Maybe you were at one time able to speak a little bit more disrespectfully and it wasn't a big deal. Now you need to abandon and let go of those immature ways, right? Excuse me. So one of the things that I feel like most people want to do is like, just because something worked at a time in your life, or just because you only, you know, focusing on something for, you know, 2 or 3 hours a week. Maybe that was a side job. Maybe that was lawn work at your house. Like, maybe that worked at one time, but as time has evolved, or maybe for you, things have just completely changed, or just in general, time is different now. It doesn't work anymore. But sometimes we're terrified to try to find a new way, or again, like I like to say, give ourselves the permission to try something new for who you are today and where you're at, right? What are things that could better serve you? I mean, I look in my journey of when I first started talking and doing like, you know, motivational or just public speaking, and more what worked for me at one point continued to have to be something new and something different the next time that I took an opportunity, or it took me onto a stage or into a school. And if I just completely like banked on the fact of what I did before and didn't give myself even, again, that permission to look and say, hey, where can you do better? Where are you going to be willing to do better? And it's not easy. That's the hardest part with all this, is it's just not easy to like give yourself permission when it seems like the world is like blaming you, or like, hey, you should do better at that. You're weak. You're soft.
For me, it was like stuck on the idea of like, okay, well, this got me here. Like, this is who I am.
Yep.
But I think something I've had to tell myself lately a lot too is, just because it got me here doesn't mean it can go with me in the next season.
Yeah, or take me where I want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so let that be, if you're taking maybe mental notes, or maybe you can jot this down on your phone. But with allergic to average, in this first topic, right, of the A16, again, we're covering abandon. And abandon, okay, I want us to look at this. To abandon something is, this definition is to cease to support or look after. Okay. Another thing is to give up completely. Now, in parentheses, a course of action, a practice, or a way of thinking. That's what it means to abandon. To give up completely, a course of action, a practice, or a way of thinking. And so in that, with any area, okay, so the first one we were talking about is, hey, what used to work? Sometimes what used to work, how it used to work, is not going to work anymore, right? Especially, you know, we see that so apparent in the world that we live in, that is constantly and progressively and so rapidly changing. And so we are doing that as human beings. So again, that first point, I might take us through two more, but that first one was, we got to abandon and let go of what used to work and did at one time. Okay. So giving yourself the ability to, like, I would say one last thing for me to add to that is, guys, like the way that I learn from trying to have the courage to like read a book out of college age time. You know, I really just like, I didn't like reading at all, but then I realized that, you know, leaders are readers. So I need to start reading. But from picking up an actual hard copy book to, you know, audibles and listening to, also like so much more of like journaling has helped me to process things more than I ever thought I would. I didn't like to handwrite stuff going through school. Later found out by giving myself the permission to journal and process that way, how much that helped. So again, I think on my last live last week, I talked about a lot of what we are doing too as allergic to average people is giving yourself this permission to dissect and really crack the code on who are you, right? Who are you not? Like, what do you need? Who do you need? And how are you going to learn? And how do you learn best? And what is it what is it that is limiting you, right? Holding you back. Now there's similarities for a lot of us as humans, but then there's individual things for each one of us that affects us differently, right? So that's why we keep coming back to this first A of the A16 basics, abandon. So Q, you got anything before I hop into the second thing we should be looking at abandoning?
We're killing it.
Okay, awesome. Again, you guys let us know if there's any questions. I wanna actually, answer those, create some conversation on that. But okay, so again, there's a lot of things that we could be focusing on letting go of, abandoning that, right? Putting abandonment in these areas. And so let's see, I think another one that we could really look at is, like just old friends or maybe people you grew up with, maybe you used to work with, maybe you went to school with, maybe people that, again, at one time, their friendship, the relationship you had with them, it served you. But the more you're honest with yourself, the more you realize this is not a relationship, a friendship, a person this is actually a win-win. This is actually serving. I feel, and you can go into any kind of reasons, but at the end of the day, you know that, hey, I've maybe outgrew this, or maybe I'm kind of beyond this with this person. Maybe, again, whoever this person is, or maybe it's a friend group, right? A group of people. Maybe, you've been working so long at a I don't know, in a position, at a location, at a job. Now you feel like maybe these people are closed-minded. Maybe they're, more limited. Maybe they're more what we call average. They're just acting average. They're settling. They're just cool with coasting. At a certain point, as you grow, you learn too that it is okay to recognize and see how you are outgrowing certain relationships, certain maybe friend groups, places of work. And so as we start to really, I feel like more and more align and upgrade our values, our intentions, what we want to do, I feel like, God, the universe, he's going to allow us to start to connect and start to merge what we are doing, who we're meeting more and more with the people that we are just like on the inside, right? People that, and it's really confusing because I feel like earlier in life, you don't always see that as much. But the more that you continue to stand for something, or you want to build something, and you continue to make decisions of what is it going to take to get to the next level, or what is it going to take to be this type of person, right? You're going to start to find that you are attracting and God is bringing you, and the universe is placing opportunities and working out these coincidences, and you're meeting people that, you never thought that you would actually meet, or you didn't know that you needed to meet. And so,
do you feel like people get stuck because they don't know that the grass is greener on the other side? You know what I mean? Like, people almost need the evidence, like, black and white in front of them. You know what I mean?
As far as for the, like, letting go of people?
Yeah, like letting go of things, or like wanting to change anything about living. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's comfortable getting in that mindset. But like what you're talking about, like, those people that are more aligned to you,
right,
are going to come to you, but you won't see there's no evidence of that. That's just, I feel like that's just one of those leaps of faith, like, you just got to take.
Right. So 1000%, because the reason why, I'm going to kind of intertwine another thing to abandon, right? But the reason why it's so difficult for most people, majority of our population, especially in America, right? This is, I feel like, why, and I've talked about this before, because when we really look at, things like domestic violence and toxic relationships and even work atmospheres, toxic, work relationships, or just places to work, and why people stick around. Like, people look at a news report, or maybe we watch a documentary one day and we're like, man, why would this person stick around? Like, why didn't they just go and do this and move on or get out of that? And so, in a sense, why didn't they abandon that situation if it was so bad, or it had been going on for that long? And so that leap that you're talking about And I said 1000% is because one thing that I realized as I started going through my personal growth journey and learning was like, we would rather continue in something, in a path, in a relationship, we would rather have something that is familiar than something that is unknown. And even if that familiar is painful and we know that it's toxic, we'll still justify it because it's at least familiar. It's at least this person. It's at least I got this job. I know this. I've been here for this. Especially the longer you've been involved in a relationship or in a job somewhere, you will more and more convince yourself of why you can't abandon and leave that and let it go. And so, again, that is that aspect of faith and you believing that there is something better when you let go of what is, again, not serving you, right? And a lot of times we got the evidence that we need. We have the evidence that this should be something, even though it is terrifying, and I don't know how the hell I'm going to let go and abandon this situation. If I don't, then I will continue to live what is already familiar. And then people do. I mean, again, this is with no judgment. There's a lot of people that would just repeat and put on autopilot this life cycle of something that stopped serving them 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, but they have just continued to live what is familiar versus go into something that is unknown. And so to get to, the greener grass, I feel like, to get to the other side of what, we feel like when we imagine and we visualize and we think about what could be and what are you missing, right? We get to those moments where we ponder and we think about, whether that's in our relationship, our physiques, like anything like that, right? We start looking at what could that be? And it goes into like, you actually have to have faith, though, at a certain point to abandon and let go, right, of what is currently there and to actually get into something new or something that's not quite guaranteed. That's a leap of faith. And I think on the last week's live, I was talking about, everybody's operating with faith. Are you having more faith? Yes, sir. I see Mr. Jesse Ontiveros is on. We have a few more popping in. I appreciate you. Yeah. And so letting go of that, right? Like, oh, it's terrifying. It's scary. And it feels like there is no guarantee of if I go and I start taking this risk, I start investing in this, or I start going to the gym, like, is this all going to pay off? And how long is it going to take? And so, but without it, like without that exchange, the only guarantee that you have is whatever you are not letting go of and giving up and surrendering for something better, this thing that is not serving you, the only guarantee you have at that is that you will keep reliving and keep experiencing a life that is not your fullest, like not your best. Those tormenting like thoughts about you should have done it last year, you could have, and it builds with weight more and more, right? And so we have, people that by the time you're getting into, your 20s, 25, 30s, you're 35, there's all this mental baggage, right? There's all this mental weight from regrets or things that you're still trying to hold on to, or maybe you should be releasing and surrendering and kind of just letting go, but you're still trying to, we like control, right? We like this sense of, no, I got it. I'll be fine. Or if I let that go, the fear of what would happen instead of, again, letting go of what is not serving or maybe what is not needed for right now. And as we can abandon and let that go, right? Again, this definition of abandon, to give up completely, a course of action, a practice, a way of thinking. I think the very first thing, the most important thing for the other two to change is the very first place we start is, and I want to kind of hone in on that, is what is a way of thinking that you need to completely give up on? What is a way of thinking, all right? And maybe you can, if you're willing to, please do share that in the chat. What is one way of thinking or limiting or negative or however you want me to say that? What is one thought, right? That if maybe there's one that it torments you or you hear it day in, day out, or maybe it's just like once a week. There's this thought that you're not this, or maybe you're not actually going to do this and that's what is that, right? I want to know, because I'm going to share some or share one of those with you, okay, that comes from a limiting belief, something that I've had to constantly take on and letting go and abandoning this this idea of fear, right? At the end of the day. So I want you to share, if you would, what is that? What would that be for you if you were to be a little brave and honest with us right now?
Tony Robbins has a quote. It's change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of the change.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly really what I mean. So, there's also, and I think that goes hand in hand with, we're usually moving because of one of two things. It's like for pleasure or pain. I'm sorry, for pleasure or pain. It's something that's going to allow us to experience more pleasure, right? It moves us to go and try and, like, I want to create more convenience and I want to be able to rest more in my life. I'm tired of working so hard. So I want to move into that pleasure, right? It moves us into doing something different, right? Okay, I need to go work a few more hours these days so that I can have these days. Or for most of us, right? For the average people who don't abandon foolishness and partner with wisdom and start to at least learn that, you will continue to go through that cycle of not letting go of, right, this idea of there is something actually better, right? There is something that's actually like available. Now, it might be a little bit painful to get into, but most times, most people aren't going to take an action and actually change unless it's gotten too painful, right? Like a tragedy happened or your health has been, in a sense, like jeopardized, or you have a health scare, or maybe something happens to somebody else like that you experienced, almost vicariously, like you lived it through them. And so then that kind of pain, or maybe losing somebody, then all of a sudden we're shifting and then we're moving. But the goal is that we don't wait till things get too painful, right? We don't wait till, sometimes we have to learn that way, and I get that. But the goal is that you would learn that earlier in life in other areas, that you start to notice, how can I use this idea of letting go, right? Giving up completely, or ceasing the support of this way of thinking, okay? This belief system, right? Like this thought, this belief I carry, right? And so I want to hone in on that and kind of like finalize in a sense, and really like, okay, let's one of the main things, and the third one that I want to give you is old ways of thinking. Okay, so old ways of thinking, and a lot of what I'm saying by old ways of thinking is your fear-based thinking, right? It serves us in a sense for so long, like to keep us physically protected as kids, as we're getting older, not knowing that fire will burn you if you play with it, right? I didn't. I was almost cut the house on fire with just lighting matches and watching them burn and blowing it out when I was little. And like. Yeah, especially boys now.
Like 7 to 14.
It wasn't safe. No, it was not safe for the world. Yeah, Axe body spray. No, we just know this. We just experienced this, right? But at one time, that fear of what, like, hey, don't do that, or if you do this, it could lead to this, or it's, people could get hurt, you could get hurt, right? It serves you at a time. The actual fear, though, that we take on and we start allowing to exist within our mind, that keeps us small in this world, that keeps us not really contributing to this world, making you convinced or believing that this world it owes you something, or it's all about you. Like, we have to get out of that fear-based, what we used to think maybe was important, or what we used to believe was true, right? And a lot of times, especially at that younger age, and you start to become a young adult, right? And then you become a full-fledged adult. And as you're growing, we have to upgrade and let go of these false beliefs, these false ideas, or maybe it's just things that didn't go well in the past, right? Letting go of the shame or the guilt, or maybe you holding yourself to why you screwed that up, or if you could go back and redo it, you would have done it like this, but you were so dumb and you were so stupid at that. Like, when are you going to actually let that go? Because this limiting, low energy, low vibrational of a thought is affecting you day in and day out, whether you realize it or not. It doesn't serve you anymore. And so we have to give up our agreement or our collaboration at times with these things, especially within our mind and our heart, that don't actually serve. And we think it's okay. One of the last ones that goes hand in hand with this is often learning how to identify pride and ego, right? Last week I talked a lot about the pride and ego and how, your ego, it wants to, in a sense, convince you that you are being protected by just looking out for you, by just getting what you need, right? By just protecting yourself and yours, and that's it, right? By lying or stealing or cheating or taking what it is that you need, and like it helps get you out of that, and it helps to allow you to stay in this place of you constantly learning how to abandon that pride and that ego that so often will keep you paralyzed, right? Makes you think you're winning, makes you think that, hey, if you don't do this, you will regret, right? You're going to eventually look dumb. You're going to feel embarrassed, or people will think you're this type of person if you don't say it like this. If you don't, and the ego, the way it shows up, that pride, right, wants to protect you or convince you that that's what you're doing, but in reality, it's actually keeping you stuck, right? Especially within men, right? If you don't ever awaken into what it is, it's like I love rust on metal, just from the start of it. And once moisture gets introduced into metal and it starts to begin just the smallest fraction of any kind of rust, I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take, but eventually that metal is going to be completely demolished. The strength, the integrity, and everything that metal once was will never be again that. And so that's what pride and ego does as to us as humans. It's like rust. It's slowly starting to tarnish and diminish and take away from who you're actually supposed to be, who you're actually meant to be, and where your power actually lies. And so in this ability we have as free thinkers, allergic to average individuals, get out of what the average person typically does and what is easiest to do, which is try to hold, try to keep, try to not release and let go, when the harder thing to do, yes, but the most mature, the most allergic to average thing that you could do that actually continues to allow you to make room for the next, make you available for what is coming and what life or God or the universe wants to actually bring you. You can't get there and you can't tap into that if you don't stay on this idea of, I got to let go. What do I need? Okay, maybe it's this season. Maybe it's I just celebrated my 33rd birthday yesterday, right? I'm in this conversation. What are things that I need to abandon and I need to let go in this next year of life? And so I want to invite you and remind you into that for yourself. What are things that, again, when we're looking at old friends, people that you used to know, maybe even the social ones, people you're following. Some of you need to abandon some of the average people and you need to follow me more, right? So like even your social ones, right? Old ways of thinking, things that used to work, pride, ego, right? We even was brought up in the chat, habits, bad habits. How do we start to learn how to let those go and abandon those mistakes, things that you didn't do well? You missed the red flags in the past and you blew this opportunity. You made this choice and it left people feeling like, when are you going to allow yourself to just let that go, to release that? Maybe that's praying, giving it to God. Maybe that's talking to people and having this ability to just release those things through conversation. But whatever it is, okay, the first of our A16 basics, the art of letting go, we're talking about abandon, right? And again, that's to cease support or to stop looking after something, to give up completely. A course of action, okay, we talked a lot about habits, the way you're showing up, the way you're doing maybe sometimes you don't feel like it, right? So often we got to give up completely. A course of action, a practice, again, a habit, a way that we show up or we approach something. Maybe it's a relationship or primarily, okay, the one that I wanted us to really focus on is, ways of thinking, belief systems that no longer serve us anymore. They're no longer anything that's helping you to serve the world or your family or your community or your God any better. They're actually keeping you playing small. And when we're playing small and we're just showing up as another just average experience. I'm out here for me. I'm out here because of me. You don't even practice things like love and kindness. Like, what are we really doing with this experience of life, this gift of life that we get to grow and expand with others, right? And this is all happening with one another, and we need that. So at times it gets messy, and at times it's not perfect. And so we have to give ourselves and grace ourselves with the permission and this art of letting things go, surrendering, and just releasing it into something that is no longer a part of us and that we are keeping captive, in order to make room for the new belief systems that you're upgrading, the new relationships where people are here to support and they're here to, impact what you're doing, right? The new opportunities within job or career, right? Like, whatever it is, as you let it go, it gives you that gift of, okay, now in exchange of letting go, forgiving, releasing, you now are available and in position to have this. And so that's the only way that we watch our lives look different than the average person's life. Not in a better way, but the only way for you to get into feeling and becoming more and more fulfilled is you allowing yourself to do the things that's going to allow you to feel and process and become one with, and that allows us to become more and more fulfilled, right? At times we're sad, and we have to realize, wow, at times we might even be depressed. At times we are so negative on what life is, or maybe who we are and what is possible. But we can come back at another time, or maybe it's the next day, or maybe it's in the next week, whatever that looks like. And we have this ability to let go and start new, right? To release, right? Like a kid starting a new day, waking up, ready for an adventure. It's actually a skill that we are in charge of. We are responsible for building for ourselves individually and that's part of it right now, right? A16, the very first one, from going from a default average mindset into a designed way of thinking, is the very first step is what we covered today. We got to let go. We got to abandon what doesn't serve, what doesn't work, and get into making room for the next. So, yeah, I'm going to take a quick break there.
Yeah, no, that was, you were on it, brother.
Yes. Well, I want to see, I'm going to stop talking, but I want to see if you guys any questions or maybe something to add. I want to see there in the chat. But man, I still appreciate all that have been watching. Trying to get a little bit better here, going live on TikTok, and should be seeing a lot more posts coming out on TikTok too. So that look out for that. But let's see, Brittany, I see you're on still. Hey, love you too, Brittany. Just saw that. Nice. I saw somebody's name, Hot Sauce Chris 806. Shout out, I don't know if you're still on. Oh, whoever that is, he said, dang, brother, looking good, man. I appreciate you, Hot Sauce Chris. I appreciate you. Yes. Nice, cool deal. Yes, I gave a shout out there.
Did you see my misspelling on abandon?
I did not see that. Did somebody correct you, or did you catch it?
No, I saw it as soon as I posted it, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Oh no!
I'm just an idiot. That's all it is.
Well, and you didn't even have to say that out loud. Everybody would have probably thought that I put that on there.
Why? If you make fun of yourself first, like nobody else can laugh at you. Kind of that mentality.
Yes, that's a lot of a smarter approach to do. I've always found with humor. Nice. Okay, well, people, let me see. I'm gonna give it just maybe another minute or two. Again, I appreciate y'all hopping on. Look, this is I fought a guy in the alley today. Can you believe that? No, that would be terrible. Look, because I have no spots on my knuckles. So that means I'm punching like this. If that's true, such an average thing to do. That's not actually what I was doing. Now got a salon. I don't own this salon, by the way, but a buddy of mine, good friend, has a salon going up, levels salon shop. So I was helping with some flooring today because I try to do it all, and I got a little busted up. These are my working hands, Q. It's my working hands. So Sweet. Well, you guys let me know if you have any questions or anything like that. I want to just hang out. I don't want to just always go live and just talk the entire time. I like talking, but it's nice to not always have to talk either. So,
What about like what's one thought or habit we can change this week? Like a challenge, you know?
That's a good one. I think. Okay, so here's a challenge. If you're still watching, all right, that I would say. So if just in case you missed it, but Q was asking, what's one thing that we could start, like a little challenge, or just something. I'm gonna partner that, of course, with maybe something that we can start to focus on, letting go of, or as we talk about this idea of abandon, right? What can we start to work on, getting rid of, and putting some of that abandonment process on, and so. Some of this is more of a spiritual approach, but when we talk about thoughts and a lot of what, if you've heard me talk about, just like the energy and a lot of the thought process for the world that we live in is actually 180 degrees from what God's way of thinking is and what His Spirit actually invites us and draws us into. So, a lot of what separates us daily from the mental noise of fear and what's going on in with different countries and scams and stealing, cheating, like you wake up and I feel like majority of people, especially now, one, they hop on their phone and that could be whatever their app choice is, or maybe that's just even through text messaging, and getting, that's the first thing. And I get it, because that's a lot of what helps us to wake up in 2025 is like you get on your phone when the alarm goes off and you start a lot of people scroll, but regardless, getting on your phone it's fine, but it's what you're getting on your phone to do that I feel like most of us need to abandon, because depending on what course of action, or like what you're actually tapping into is exactly what you're tuning into for that entire day. Most people I talk to, they hop on social media, any form, like it's Facebook, it's TikTok, and so good and bad. I mean, you're gonna get humor, I'm sure but most of the dominating force of social media is, yes, we see humor, this and that, but a lot of it's fear, a lot of it's scarcity, a lot of it's trying to get plays off of your fear being embedded about something. So I say all that to say, I would challenge us, and myself included. And if you're you're open to that, maybe you can throw that in the chat. But my challenge to us would be like abandoning something this week that maybe you typically do. Like maybe you get on social media first thing in the morning, and that helps you wake up. Snapchat, something, right? You let go of that and replace it instead with, maybe you get on and you still get on your phone, but instead of scrolling, maybe you go to YouTube and you listen to a meditation or an affirmation video, or maybe you...
Bible app does verse of the day first thing in the morning?
Yes, absolutely. The Bible app, right? Verse of the day. I have mine. It comes through at 11:41. I don't know why I did that, but I remember setting up at night the day before. So I know that I always wake up to what the verse of the day was for the next day, right? So what are things that you could do to help you to tune in to something different? Because where you start to tap into, it's like whatever channels you start watching and you start listening to, whether that's actual music or social media and a lot of our apps, what you're tuning into is what you're tapping into, and that's actually positioning you into what you're becoming. So what if we started to challenge ourselves to abandon any of those this week that don't really serve you? At least for, maybe it's just like the first 15 minutes. I mean, we don't have to make this complicated, but maybe your challenge is you're going to let go of the habit of waking up and getting on social media for your first 15 minutes when you wake up, right? Maybe for that first 15 minutes, you do something like, you get up and you reply to a text message. And then, there was times where my challenge was just get out of bed and start stretching. I would just stretch. That would help me wake up, right? Then there was a time where my challenge was just to get up and get into, like, I would crawl out of my bed and then hit my knees and get into prayer mode and just start saying a prayer and start, and then it got into, my habit was when I wake up for a season, it was like I could just go to YouTube and put on a meditation and listen to that and start going through the meditation. But then I had to change that because I started falling asleep because it wouldn't wake me up enough. It actually calmed me so much that I would fall asleep too much through my meditations. But find something, right, that helps just put you in a better mental space that day, put you in a different energy, put you in different thoughts right off the bat. And I feel like as we do that, man, it just makes a big difference over time of what you're tapping into, because what you listen to, that's what you start to become. And so the more that we are intentional about what we are doing with what we're listening to, what we're tapping into, and again, even those habits, like, right, letting go of the things again, like we talked about today, to abandon the things that no longer serve you and just won't serve you, that is the art of letting go and the art of really becoming. Right, so to become, you have to let go of a lot of things that once served again, that once were, or maybe they just never were, and you're just full of this BS, right? This belief system that has convinced you for so long that it's going to work. Like, it worked for somebody else, but it never actually worked for you. I've had foolish thoughts like that for myself too. So give yourself that permission and ability, right? Create a space, a time. If it's right before you're going to bed, or you wake up in the morning, or maybe it's like a lunch hour thing, like whatever, but to check in on you and figure out, even at times like what we covered today, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to abandon? So, yes, I see Chase. Chase was hopping on here at the end. I am about to call it for this live. I think we've been going for... Well, we started at 6:54, so it's about to be right back at an hour. We started a little early. Awesome. Well, sweet. Well, I love and appreciate you guys. Of course, still expanding and growing the message. Again, if you live here locally in Amarillo or just around the area, I will say for next Tuesday, August 12th, we have our next in-person live and local Tune-In Tuesday. Okay, Tune-In Tuesday is usually a men's, like a guys group. We had some ladies start asking about if they could join that, and so we're going to open it up. And next Tuesday, more live over off of Olson here in Amarillo. It seems like we're going to have a really good group of people showing up, guys and girls. We should have some finger foods, and very much so like this, but it's even better because we're in person and we can actually exchange like conversation there. We bring topics, and we just, in general, typically, like I said, it's for guys, but we're going to be able to do that with ladies. But yeah, just thought-provoking. What are things that through conversation and through mental rep put you in a different position to become a better version of you? What are things that you didn't even, you maybe don't think are possible for you? Maybe you don't think is in your wheelhouse of life, or it's something that you could experience or become. We want to shatter, right, the false beliefs, this false identity, or maybe it's just this average version of what you think you are or who you have to be in certain ways. Or maybe for a lot of people, we just want to amplify that belief system that you've already tapped into, that you're not here to just be, average or ordinary. You have something within you, or you want to give or leave this world with something better, right? Something that could potentially be extraordinary. We want to build into that and build that with you too, in that belief system. So that's next Tuesday here in Amarillo. We got Q, Mr. Producer Man here, always behind the scenes. But there's a whole backstory too of our content and why that's been so hard to keep going consistent. But one, God is so good. It's freaking crazy, like mind blowing. But then two, through that type of goodness and just you trying to be a good person, He continues to bring you good people that want to help you to continue to grow good things. And so that's a shout out to Q.
Appreciate you, brother.
Hopefully he's going to keep it going and rolling on our social media consistency. So y'all stay looking out for that, and keep the comments on those, and likes and loves and shares on the content you'll see us posting. Let's see, Chase. I remember hearing your message back in my middle school classes. I still go. Nice. Yes, I love it. So, real quick before I hop off, is this? I'm guessing this was at Bowie Middle School. If I'm wrong, let me know what middle school you were at. But I want to say this is back when it's the exact same thing. This is crazy because if this is Bowie Middle School, that was the first school. I actually went to middle school there a few years back. But I actually wrote out. I got a whole thing, and it's for 8 different weeks or up to 16 weeks. I would go back in and I would teach one of the A16 basics. And so I'd always start out with what we covered tonight. Abandon. Yes, it was. Yes. Bowie Middle School. See, I'm out here on TikTok, Chase. I told you I wasn't lying to you back in the day. And one of the things I always tell the students, just so y'all know, is anything I remember teaching them, like even if it's in elementary school or like Chase right here, clear evidence of when I was teaching this class or teaching the A16 in middle school. But I always tell the individuals and the students, like if you ever come to a position or a place in life where there's something that you remember I taught you and it was a lie, I want you to find me and tell me, because I'm not here to lie to you. Like I'm here to just let you know. And so some of that same stuff I'm still doing, right? Still carrying the same message, going over the A16 basics, talking about the power of letting go, right? What are the things that you got to abandon? And there's so many other things. There's so much other depth that we could get into. That's why it's a whole curriculum and a leadership course. But I'm not lying. We got to abandon, right? And so I'm about to have to abandon this live. But man, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody who's hopped on, who checked in for a little bit, or maybe you caught the whole thing. Love you and appreciate you guys for that. Seriously. So reach out if you need anything. You know I'm here, and just growing with you, doing my best to. So I think that does it. Q, you got anything? Producer Q's out. All right. Love and appreciate you guys. Again, your boy Matt Lee, helping you go mentally free. Okay, I'm going to stop rapping, but I'm out. Peace.